State Representative Jim Struzzi joins us on the line today. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Todd. Thanks for having me on.
I'm glad you're on with us here today. Of course, major news coming yesterday. A federal judge ruling against three particular aspects of Governor Wolf's pandemic restrictions, saying they are unconstitutional. What did you think when you heard the news?
Well, certainly it confirms what we have been saying for many, many months now, in that the restrictions put into place in response to the pandemic were very heavy-handed, very authoritarian, and simply unfair to working men and women in Pennsylvania. And now we see that a judge has also agreed with that, and it just goes to show that, the approach the administration took many, many months ago could have been different. It could have been more fair. It could have been more reasonable and approached from a common sense standpoint. And I've been on with you many, many times now over the past several months, Todd, and we've been saying the same thing. Where is the logic? Where is the rationale behind shutting down all businesses yet allowing big box stores to stay open? Where's the rationale in not allowing parents to see their kids play sports? There's no science or data behind some of these restrictions, and I think that this judge's ruling simply shows that we were right. Now, what does that mean? I think it's so unfortunate that it took a judge's ruling to, show that this should have been done differently. And unfortunately, what does that do for the people that have suffered because of these decisions? You can't get back your lost business. You can't get back your lost wages. So many people have suffered because of these decisions, and here we are now. And what's going to happen? Is Governor Wolf going to apologize? Probably not. Is he going to even back off on some of this stuff? Probably not. And I think it's so unfortunate that the people that I represent in Indiana County and the people across this Commonwealth have had to suffer unduly because of these decisions. So while it's some vindication, it's so tragic that this had to occur, and it had to come to a court decision for reasoning to be established.
I was going to ask you about the level of frustration and the amount of work it took to get to this point. There were all kinds of different court efforts, legislation passed that was vetoed, everybody trying everything they could possibly think of to become involved in a process in which they should have become involved in the very first place. And it finally took a lawsuit filed in federal court against the governor to get this done. It had to be very frustrating.
Well, it has been frustrating, and really it did not need to be this way. If the governor would have continued to work with us, as he did in the beginning, we could have avoided a lot of these heartbreaks for people, because we could have spoken with the voice of the people, spoken with a reasonable approach so that people's rights and livelihoods and families could have been respected and appreciated. Don't get me wrong, everyone appreciates that at the beginning of this, the pandemic was uncertain. We did not know what the coronavirus was going to bring, but at this point, I think we understand more about this virus. We understand what we need to do to mitigate it, and we have done all those things. Yet, still, the restrictions are in place. And so I'm happy that this occurred. I'm happy that, people can hopefully get back to some sense of normal life here while still maintaining what you need to maintain to be healthy and to mitigate the further spread of the coronavirus. But really, it speaks to our rights as citizens of this nation and of this state, the rights to make your own choices in life, the rights to be responsible for your own health and well-being. And when you take that away from people, when you take away their fundamental right to make a living and provide for their families, it's heartbreaking, because so many people are not going to recover because of these decisions. And this court decision simply shows that those decisions were made improperly. And I think that it's some validation, Todd, but man, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to recover from this.
Talking with State Representative Jim Struzzi, who's on the road this morning, but pulled off the road long enough to speak with us about what's happening in Harrisburg. One of the things I spoke with Senator Pittman about an hour and a half ago had to do with the state constitution. And I think this pandemic has showed more clearly than ever before, this and the RGGI regulations at the same time, that our state constitution really concentrates power too much in the governor's mansion to the exclusion of the state legislature.
That's absolutely right, Todd. And we did pass a joint resolution to change the Constitution to not allow something like this to occur. That will have to be voted on by the voters in 2 consecutive sessions, but that would essentially allow the governor to make the initial disaster declaration for 30 days. That gives them enough time to respond, as did happen with the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then after that, any extension of the disaster declaration would need to occur by a vote of the legislature. And that is something that we do not have the power to do right now, as you have seen, and as the citizens of this great state have seen for many, many months. We really don't have the power to stop the governor in these types of situations. And don't get me wrong, again, we don't want to stop the governor. We want to work together with the governor, whoever it is in that office. It needs to be a joint effort between the General Assembly and the governor to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the people of Pennsylvania, not just to stop the spread of some infectious diseases, but to also make sure that people are being taken care of, healthy people are being taken care of, and that we're doing the right things in a logical, sensible approach. And that did not occur in this situation, and we have to make sure that we don't go through this again and we don't put people through this again.
A year or 2 or 3 or 4 years from now, we're going to look back at 2020 and see the amount of economic damage that has been done because of the pandemic and because of the way the state has reacted. And there will be plenty of blame to go around, I'm sure. But do you see an end to the suffering that has been caused because of what has happened here in the last 6 months?
Time, Todd. Yeah, it's going to take some time. Our situation right now financially in the state is grim. I have an appropriations meeting today. I expect to talk about the upcoming budget, and we're looking at a several $billion-dollar shortfall right now. It's going to take a lot of time for people to recover. Some people may not recover, and that's truly the tragedy of all this, is that in a lot of cases, businesses aren't going to reopen. People aren't going to be able to get back that lost wages or their jobs even. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going to migrate to other states that had a more reasonable approach to this pandemic. But I certainly know that we are a resilient society. We are definitely resilient in Indiana County. I see our economy coming back stronger than ever because that's what we do in Pennsylvania. That's what we do in Indiana County. And I know that we're all going to work together to make that happen.
Are we approaching the corner, rounding the corner, or have we rounded the corner and we're pointed in the right direction?
Oh, I think we're certainly pointed in the right direction, but what we can't allow to happen is another shutdown. So we need to make sure that we continue to move forward. People need to do the right thing and make sure that we don't have to go backwards and shut down businesses again. Obviously, with the judge's ruling, that's simply not constitutional, so hopefully that won't happen again. Now, of course, the governor plans to appeal this decision, and we'll see where that goes, and I suspect that you will see more lawsuits as this continues to move forward. But a lot of people suffered by no fault of their own because of these decisions. And when you take away someone's ability to provide for their families or to pay their bills and do all those things that are fundamental in life, people are going to hurt, and they're going to want some sort of recourse for that.
The temporary budget you mentioned a couple of moments ago that was passed in June is good until basically the end of November, and then there are some really hard decisions coming. Have there been previous discussions in the build-up to today's meeting?
Well, certainly, and we're concerned with what revenues we are going to have, and there's going to definitely be hard decisions that need to be made, and people are going to have to accept that because just like any household budget, if you don't have the money to pay for certain things, then you cannot do those things. We have to do what's right to provide those essential services that people need. Obviously, it was a wise decision to fund education for the entire year, but now we have to look at the important services that people need to sustain life, those human services, and all of those types of things that we need to provide for to make sure that our citizens in this state, that their needs are met, that they can get back to a healthy, normal state of life. There's going to be a lot of ramifications from the mental health perspective moving forward. And our state needs to be there to help people when they need those services. And that's something that we have to find a way to fund. And that's going to be very difficult given that, as I said, we're looking at close to $3 billion, if not more, in revenue shortfalls.
That's going to be a really difficult thing to do because those things that are at the top of the list of priorities, that have been there for quite some time, that's one thing, and some of those might get pushed a little bit further down the line because I think rural broadband has pretty well jumped up to near the top, the one or two items that needs absolutely to be addressed and right away.
Absolutely correct, and thankfully that did shine a spotlight on the need to provide rural broadband across the Commonwealth to everyone. If people are forced to stay home, they need to be able to work from home, and a lot of people couldn't do that, and we're still seeing that now with some of the students not being able to work from home to attend classes. I think it's really unfortunate, Todd, on a larger scale that COVID shifted our priorities away from many of the essential needs that we have in Pennsylvania right now. We have a lot of needs, infrastructure needs, telemedicine, all of these types of things that we need to be focused on to move Pennsylvania forward. We need to get back to that. I am happy that we're going to be moving forward here. We have been dealing with the COVID battle with the administration for the past 4, 5, 6 months. I want to get back to moving Pennsylvania in the right direction. I want to get back to creating jobs, building our economy, and helping people live a better life here in this Commonwealth.
All right. Well, you're on your way to Harrisburg right now. Check that rearview mirror before you pull back onto the turnpike. Thanks for coming with us today.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
There's Jim Struzzi, state representative from the 62nd district.